You talk about a rivalry,
Right?
Yeah. Those those two cities those cities aren't too crazy about each other and stuff. So that would be really cool.
That would be a great move because it would stay in the division. You're right. I mean, that to me is an opportunity, right there for sure.
But you have problems about. Do I want to play in Canada? There's taxes in Canada. There's different, you got the COVID rules right now that, the Red Sox went to Toronto a couple weeks ago and couldn't take some of our players because they hadn't been vaccinated. Like Canada's not messing around with this. Like, You're not vaccinated, you're not coming in here. No, sir. And they're not messing around and stuff. So there's rules like that and stuff. And, here in the here right now and stuff, but there's, so how many people want to play? You always hear Mexico City mentioned. There's no way in the world.
Let's not do that.
Let's not do that. That Mexico City's got a lot of problems and who's going to want to go play in Mexico City? Go ahead and play a game there every now and then and stuff, but don't think about a franchise there. That's absurd.
I mean, you take away the COVID and, eventually at some point maybe, because this isn't going to happen for another if it happened at all, probably another 2 or 3 years. So hopefully things will be better. Who knows at this point? But I think Montreal, it's a natural rivalry built in there, and I think Canadian fans would love that. We'll see how it plays out. But Manfred ain't playing around, man. I think
Nashville's a possibility.
Yes,
Nashville is a possibility too. And
what about your people in Buffalo? Can you? I know you've got state.
We have the state-of-the-art stadium there, Coca-Cola Field, which was when it first opened up in 1988. It was Pilot Field, and that is this is obviously Buffalo pride here talking, but nevertheless, that all the new stadiums that came out in the 90s were based in the stadium in Buffalo. It was the first one there. They built it. Baseball was going to expand in the early 90s, so they built that stadium in downtown Buffalo with easy way to expand to 40,000 if they got one. But I just don't think, Buffalo has been losing some population there over the years. I just don't think they have it. It's like the 55th TV market. So, they do a great job supporting the Bills and the Sabres, and I think that might just be about it as far as two major league teams. That's enough for them and stuff. But how about Nashville? Like I said, Nashville.
Yeah, I like that idea too. I think that city is blowing up. They're already handling 2 professional sports teams.
Maybe even Charlotte.
Yeah,
Charlotte was a possibility too and stuff. So you remember years ago, Pat, I think right before you got here, there was talk the Minnesota Twins moving to Kernersville. They're going to build a ballpark just outside of Winston-Salem and call them the Carolina Twins, I believe, and stuff. So there was some talk about that years and years ago.
Always great to have Ian Castleberry with the Wise Guys for our NFL Gold Nuggets feature presented by David Creasman and DC Creasman Jewelers. Ian, how are you, lad?
I'm a little bit bummed. I just watched Eric Backage introduced as Clemson's new baseball coach.
Oh, that's right.
Very happy for Eric Backage, but bummed out as a Michigan fan. He did a great job there, and I think it's a great hire by Clemson. You go by what he did at Michigan with the resources at Clemson and the location. I think it's not unreasonable to expect he could coach Clemson to a national title. So Clemson fans should be excited.
Man, but poor Ian, he's your guy leaving like that. What was he in Michigan for 10 years?
10 years, yeah. It was probably a surprise that he was there even that long. Yeah. I mean, he was in demand, especially after Michigan went to the College World Series 3 years ago. But that's just a job he couldn't turn down. Totally understandable that he'd take it.
Yeah, Clemson wanted to move quick after they didn't make the NCAA tournament for the second straight year, and that's just unheard of down there at Clemson. They had to do away with Monty Lee, the head coach that they hired from College of Charleston, and he took Jack Leggett's place, who was formerly at Western Carolina, and Jack had kind of went downhill a little bit before they kind of forced Jack out. Clemson hadn't hosted a regional in a couple years, and that's just unheard of. And, hey, Florida State fired their coach after 3 years, Mike Martin Jr., who succeeded his father there. And they went to the NCAA tournament the last 3 years, but they weren't hosting regionals. They weren't going to super regionals, and the standard is Omaha at those schools. So, so great hire for Clemson, but there'll be some pressure there as well.
Well, speaking of signing that I think should be taking place, but is not, maybe it's Lamar Jackson's agent's fault. I'm not. Oh, wait a minute. He is his own agent. But Ian Lamar, of course, at Ravens minicamp. But a lot of media attention is being shined on his contract. No extension yet heading into the final year of Jackson's rookie contract. And Ian, how confident are you that both sides, I mean, we're just talking Lamar and the Ravens, can come to a deal before the season? It's crazy he's still unsigned.
I think Ravens fans should be encouraged by the fact that Jackson's at minicamp.
Yes.
He could turn this into a holdout situation, that report, make this a big deal. Now, things could change come training camp. Jackson may decide not to go to training camp if a contract hasn't been agreed upon by then. But the fact that Jackson's there, he's taking questions about it. I think it's a good faith effort to show, hey, I want to be here. Hey, I want to play for the Ravens. He told reporters that he sees himself as playing for the Ravens for the rest of his career. I don't know financially where if there have been discussions. Obviously, quarterback salaries have exploded over the past few seasons. Lamar Jackson set to make $23 million, which is outstanding, but it's about half of what the top 10 quarterbacks are making in the NFL right now.
Mike, I think at this point, I trust the Ravens. That's one of the great organizations in the NFL. So I'm kind of surprised that I guess they're just trying to squeeze every single dollar, perhaps out of Lamar. But I've got to think both sides are going to get this done.
I have to wonder if there is some doubt in the back of the Ravens' mind. Because think about Lamar was the MVP in 2019. They had that great season, then fizzled out in the playoffs. He's been hurt a couple of times. I wonder if there's some thought maybe he's not the guy to get us over the top. That's just an idea. I don't know if that's true or not. But you look at, he's regressed a little bit the last couple of years. So much of his game is running, and not as big as Josh Allen, and so it's easy to get hurt. I just wonder if that organization's thinking maybe this guy's not the guy for the future or not. So we'll see.
I don't think they've given him enough offensive weapons. I mean,
that's what I was just going to say.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ian.
Yes.
No, I agree with everything Mike said as far as possibly regressing, especially as a pocket passer. But boy, it would sure be nice if the Ravens gave him, like a stud number one receiver and see what could happen there.
I mean, Mark Andrews is great, but, it's like every pass seems to be going to him.
Amazing how Josh Allen took that next step when Stephon Diggs came to Buffalo.
Yeah, that's a great point. It makes a difference. Help your quarterback out. I mean, I read a story where receivers don't really want to come to Baltimore because they don't feel like they're utilized properly. Some receivers who have left have kind of said the same thing. So that's a bit of a conundrum. We'll see where this one plays out. But Lamar wants to stay there. The Ravens say they want to keep Lamar, but they're still apart on negotiations. So stand by for news there. Minkah Fitzpatrick, no need to worry about his contract. The Steelers just made him the highest paid safety in league history. $18 million a year over 4 years, $36 million guaranteed. He is an absolute professional, Ian. This is going to be money well spent.
I think so. I mean, ever since the Steelers got Fitzpatrick, he's made a major impact on their defense. 11 interceptions, 3 defensive touchdowns. Maybe safeties aren't the high-impact players that they used to be among NFL defenders. This is a higher salary now than Jamal Adams. And with the Seahawks, and you have to look at what Adams has done for the Seahawks and think, would the Seahawks do that over again if they could? But the Steelers, I think they're going to have to win on defense this season with their quarterback situation uncertain with Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett. Fitzpatrick is an impact player. $18 million. I think that's a good deal. 4 years, $36 million guaranteed. I think the Steelers have done a great job of re-signing their defensive cornerstones, T.J. Watt, now Minkah Fitzpatrick. They're going to be in good shape on that side of the ball.
A funny story, guys. A woman posted on her Instagram page, so she's in Pittsburgh, lives there. She went down to a pickleball court. She wanted to pick up a game. And there were these 3 guys that were playing and just kind of hanging out. So she teamed up with one guy, and they played the other 2 guys. And she said, and she took a picture. She said, the guy on the right, he and I crushed these other 2 guys. And then she said, suddenly everyone wanted to take pictures with those guys. Well, it was Minkah Fitzpatrick, who was her teammate. T.J. Watt was one of the other players. I forget who the other Pittsburgh player was, but they took a photo with her. And I just thought that was so cool. There's something special about Pittsburgh, and I think you're right, Ian. Get that defense lined up because it's going to be rough sailing, Mike, offensively for the Steelers.
Watch out for Steelers. They next season, like I said, offensively they'll be a little bit challenged. But when you have a good defense, you're in every game. And they have a schedule that isn't bad. They don't travel very much as far as they travel the least. throughout the year and stuff.
Right.
And they toughed it out. Now they got a big break from Jacksonville when they beat the Colts in the last day of the season and kind of let the Steelers get into the playoffs. But watch out for them. A good defense can take you a long way and fight out. You can't get Super Bowl, but if Trubisky learned a lot from Josh Allen and becomes the quarterback, a lot of people, a lot of Tar Heel fans feel like he can't. Watch out for the Steelers. They could be a surprise team. Every now and then, every time we think they're kind of down a little bit, they kind of surprise us. So watch out for them this year in the AFC.
Yeah, no kidding. And that's great. Look, I'm a fan of the Steelers, and I think anytime they're in it and they're relevant, it's great for the league. Ian Castleberry joins the Wise Guys on the DC Creasman Jewelers Wise Lines. And, of course, our NFL Gold Nuggets feature presented by DC and the crew at 269 Tunnel Road, your one-stop jewelry shop. All right, Ian, now we move on to the courts where I want to ask you this question. You can probably help us out here. So why is Roger Goodell testifying in the upcoming congressional hearing on the Washington Commanders' workplace culture, but Washington owner Dan Snyder is not?
Well, the House Oversight Committee, they requested Roger Goodell and Commanders owner Daniel Snyder to testify before the committee. The answer is surprisingly simple in that Goodell accepted the invitation and Snyder declined it. Now, that's rare to turn down a request for testimony. I mean, we've seen all sorts of committees where CEOs from drug companies, fuel companies, tobacco, et cetera, have accepted what, they haven't had to. They weren't subpoenaed, but they were asked to testify. So for Snyder to turn it down does raise an eyebrow. But he and his lawyer maintain that, there was a previously scheduled event, Commander's business, that was going to have him out of the country on June 22nd when the hearing is, and Snyder reportedly asked for a delayed hearing and insists he wants to cooperate, but couldn't abide by the date of June 22nd. So Goodell is probably doing what his job is to take one for the owners and get out there and try to defend the Washington Commanders and their toxic workplace culture.
Jeez, Mike, this to me, it's like, here we go, another billionaire. It's like, hold them in contempt. Say, you know what? Your trip's been canceled. You're coming in to do this. I don't know if they can do that, but to me, this is just this seems to me like Snyder's trying to wiggle his way, or at least kick the can down the road.
The 3 Bs, billionaires behaving badly.
Boom. 3 words. That is the truth. So we'll see if Snyder can keep his word that he wants to help with this. I can't imagine necessarily that he does, because I don't think it shines a very good light on him and his organization. And we'll see if down the road this could impact Daniel Snyder actually continuing to own the Washington Commanders. All right, Ian, we move on. Saints defensive end Marcus Davenport loses half of his left pinky finger. All right, Ian, July 4th is still 3 weeks away. Well, what happened here?
Right, this wasn't a Jason Pierre-Paul situation where he blew his finger off. This was a situation where he had damaged the ligaments in that pinky finger going back to college. And he'd had surgery on it, but it had continued to bend or stay permanently bent. I don't know which way, if the natural way or backward, but he was unable to use that pinky finger, and he had surgery on it last year and had a plate inserted in there, but somehow the plate broke, probably from playing NFL football, and it became infected. And Davenport decided, well, just cut the thing off, like Ronnie Lott style, just chop that finger off, and doesn't want to deal with it. I mean, I don't know how much of impediment that is, playing defensive end in the NFL. I type for a living. I need my pinky finger, but maybe Marcus Davenport does not. And he had an outstanding season last year, 9 sacks in 11 games. He has fought a lot of injuries, but the Saints clearly, they believe in Marcus Davenport as a defensive force, and so his pinky is no longer going to be a question.
Wow. Well, there you have it. Now, Mike, he says that this isn't going to impact his on-field play, but who knows? And what else is he going to say?
Poor guy. I mean, my fingers hurt right now just thinking about it.
Just glad.
Yeah, I'm looking at my ticket.
I just did the same thing. I know. I'm like, geez, what's half of my? Holy cow, that's an all right there. Well, wish him all the best. I know that wasn't an easy decision to make for Marcus Davenport. All right, Ian Castleberry, presented by DC Creasman Jewelers at 269 Tunnel Road, your one-stop jewelry shop. And I agree with Chris Womack on WLOS last night. He said, hey, you know what? Panthers receiver Robbie Anderson should stop thinking out loud on Twitter. What is Robbie saying about his retirement tweet just days after he put it out there?
Yeah, going into last weekend, Robbie Anderson, who's already had quite an offseason, right? He changed the spelling of his name from R-O-B-B-Y to R-O-B-B-I-E, changed his jersey number from 11 to 3, so a lot going on for Robbie Anderson. And he tweeted out that, I think the exact quote was, not going to lie, thinking about retiring. So, of course, that got a lot of attention. Anderson eventually deleted the tweet. At minicamp, Anderson, when questioned about this by reporters, seemed to be a little testy about it, saying, I'm here, ain't I? But I agree that maybe it's time to delete the old Twitter account and maybe not. You don't have to comment on everything. You don't have to tweet every thought that's in your head, which would probably destroy Twitter if everybody stopped doing that, right? But yeah, maybe a good time for Robbie Anderson to retire the social media account.
Maybe that's the problem with Twitter. Half their users are always thinking out loud, which, as you say, Ian, always makes for great content. And, it's like Herm Edwards said back in the day, don't press send, don't hit send. And for Robbie Anderson to be cranky about that, it's like, well, dude, what were you expecting? Just answer the questions and then just move on. This is how he was feeling. I'm sure it kind of freaked out a number of Panthers fans because, Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore, those are the top two guys. And Sam Darnold is going to need Robbie Anderson. So I'm sure Sam's breathing a sigh of relief now. Ian, quickly, we've got just a couple of minutes left, but your thoughts on what Mike and I were talking about at the open of the show today, and that is Rob Manfred, baseball commissioner. Basically, I think he's sending up a flare here to both Tampa Bay and Oakland and saying, hey, if you guys don't get new stadium deals done, we're going to consider relocation. Yeah,
he's putting Oakland and Tampa Bay on notice. I mean, Oakland for a long time has been they've tried to make it work in Oakland. There's one project by the Howard Terminal there that just has not gone through. The A's have been very serious in discussions with Las Vegas. I remember a couple of weeks ago we were talking about Tommy Pham, right, and with Major League Baseball being concerned that he said he was a high roller at the casinos, and what I forgot at the time was that we should have said, well, Major League Baseball wants to be in business with Las Vegas, so maybe they don't have that much to say about Tommy Pham. But I think that the A's are leaving Oakland. I think whether or not they go to Las Vegas is a question. Las Vegas also wants an NBA team. You've heard guys like LeBron James, like Floyd Mayweather said they want to be in any ownership group that's involved in Las Vegas. And then with Tampa Bay, like you guys were saying at the beginning of the show, I mean, St. Petersburg, it's always been a difficult facility for fans to get to out there. It's an extremely ugly building with a whole set of rules required for it, but they're not going to get a new ballpark there in Tampa Bay. It seems unlikely. So now you have all kinds of other cities. We mentioned Las Vegas. You guys talked about Montreal. I mean, Charlotte and Raleigh have always been interested. Portland. There's a big initiative in Nashville to try and get a Major League Baseball team. Maybe Austin, Texas as well. So I think this is Rob Manfred saying, hey, we are open for business. If anybody is interested in taking the Oakland Athletics or the Tampa Bay Rays, give us a call.
Wow, man. We'll see how it plays out. That's interesting to hear. And, of course, Mike was saying, too, that, he's visited Tropicana Field during the NCAA tournament, the Final Four in, 1999, I think,
correct.
Mike? And you were very impressed with the facility, right?
It was a dump. It was an absolute dump. And actually, about 20 years ago, Jeff Cabe and I and a friend went up to Boston and Fenway Park, saw a series between the Braves and the Red Sox, and were nice enough to get tickets, free tickets from an umpire that Jeff knew, his friend or something. And anyway, and we had I'm not going to tell who the umpire is, but we ended up having dinner with him and stuff. And he was going on from Boston to Tampa, and he was not looking forward to it because of all the stupid things you got to worry about there, and all the all the different different balls could hit here. That's a ground rule double. That's in play. I mean, there's just incredible amount of ground rules there, and it's not just not a great place for a. It's just not a good park, and so
it just sucks.
It's not good.
Oh my goodness! And do not ever bring another Major League Baseball franchise to Florida, Manfred, or whoever replaces him down the road, because that state doesn't really give a damn about baseball. All right, Ian Castleberry, you're awesome as always. Barrett Sports Media. Can't thank you enough, my friend. Have a great rest of the week. We'll get you into more baseball headlines come Monday.
Okay, looking forward to it. Stay cool the rest of the week, guys.
Yeah, you too, buddy. Wow. It's like we're in the middle of hell week right now. All right, thanks to Ian Castleberry joining us on the DC Creasman Jewelers Wise Lines.